Welcome to AKmtb. Today we're going to have a look on my Ford Mustang SVT Cobra. It's a Cobra from 1996, and some of you might remember that I previously reviewed a V6 Mustang from the same year. So I thought it would be interesting to look on the differences between this Cobra and the regular V6. And I could already tell you now that there is a huge difference. This is a completely different car. They are in two different leagues. This one is stiffer, it's faster, it's way faster, it sticks better on the road, it's more progressive, and well, it is more of a sports car, while the V6 is more like a cruising around car, and this is obviously more fun. Let's have a look on the engine, shall we? Under the hood we find a 4.6 liters V8 engine, and this engine is more or less stock. It comes with 310 horsepower, which is more than enough to move you from 0 to 60 in 5.4 seconds. On my engine though, there is some modifications. There's a cold air intake, and this is a proper one that is made of aluminum housing, and then it's sealed off from the engine bay, so it only feeds the cold air. I have no idea how much power that will give you, but let's say 10, 15 perhaps. Or some people may argue that they don't give that much, some people would argue that they give more. It doesn't matter, it gives something, and combined with that I have a drive shaft in aluminum, and I have a flywheel in aluminum. That is rotating mass, and I think that all those things, well, maybe give you, let's say, 15 to 20 horsepower. That feels fair without just guessing. This one has a stiffener in the engine bay. It stiffens off the frame, so you don't have that play and sloppiness that you feel from, for example, driving the V6. A difference from the GT is found up here. This is the Cobra emblem, and basically what that is that there's a special intake manifold for the Cobra model. The Cobra also have dual overhead cams, and that is what makes this engine sticks out from the regular GT. The engine is pretty roomy, so if you enjoy working on your vehicles yourself, you probably gonna like this engine. It's not super tight. It is pretty tight though, considering what kind of car this is. But there's nothing that you're really gonna swear that much about. Maybe the starter motor, but access to spark plugs and stuff like that is good, and considering that it's a rear wheel vehicle, you have all the access in the front, and there's quite a lot of space there, and there's no cooling fan. The cooling fan is electronically regulated, so there's no mechanically cooling fan that you need to remove or stuff like that for simple maintenance stuff. Oil filter is accessible. It is on a stupid location just above the starter motor, so you should put a plastic bag over the starter motor if you're doing that. Otherwise, well, it's a nice vehicle, no doubt. It's a nice engine. It's something that you will enjoy. There will be some noticeable differences from, example, the GT. One of those is that you might see Cobras around the car, but if I'm not mistaken, it doesn't come with a Cobra in the front from factory. This is change for an aftermarket, and same, you have a Cobra on the sides, and it says Cobra in the back. So there is some eye-catching things that says that this is a Cobra, it's not a regular Mustang. Matter of fact, there's actually nothing on the car saying that it's a Mustang, at least not on the outside. But if you look inside, especially on the steering wheel, there will be a horse. And this is the only place where there is a horse. In the front you could also see that it says Cobra on the brake caliper, which is a dual piston, so you have all that stopping power that you actually need. This one come with ABS, which the V6 doesn't. Besides that, you don't have any traction controls or anything like that, so it's a fun car to drive in that sense. It's a very manual feeling driving it. In the back you have two exhausts. It's a dual exhaust, and I made some modifications on the exhaust in this. I put an X pipe in it. From factory it comes with an H pipe, and a lot of people recommend you to put X pipes in this. It gives a really nice sound to it, and it also makes the exhaust to flow out much better. But I don't recommend you to go like overly big when it comes to exhaust. I kept the stock diameter, which is I think 2.5 inches pipes, and I also deleted my mufflers. Factory it doesn't sound very fun, and I also have some racing cats on it. Factory it comes with 4 cats, mufflers, and the sound is pretty vague. I'm going to start this up so you're going to hear the sound, but if I would start it up sitting here, that would kind of hurt in my ears, because this one is loud and unsocial, as it should be. That's the sound. that's the exhaust sound. Where am I? Since we are in the back, we could have a look on the trunk. It's pretty okay for being like what it is, but you don't really buy this kind of car for the trunk. But it's quite generous, and you can fold down the seats if you want. Different from the V6 is that you get things remote where you could open the trunk from, and that is pretty neat. Otherwise you need to use the key. Trunk itself, pretty generous. You could put a couple of bags here, golf bags or whatever floats your boat. It's decent. That's not what we're gonna focus on, but you have a trunk at least. There is a back seat if you like that, and if you notice, the back seats and the seats in the Mustang comes with leather seating, and that's different from the V6, because in the V6 you don't have the leather, and I think you probably have that in the GT, or that is an option at least. But the back seat is not really for like tall people. As you see, I don't have any headroom, and I'm only 176. 178 maybe, but I'm not very tall, so a tall person would probably don't fit very well here. And here's also the example of how you can fold down the seats. That could be pretty useful if you want to transport something in your Mustang. Why you won't want to do that, but anyway, it's possible. We are in the spot where it actually matters how you sit and stuff like that. It's in the front, of course, but as you see, this is not the standard seat. It comes with leather seating in the front as well, of course, and the original seats, they are pretty like you sit pretty good in them. They feel pretty sporty. Nothing like this though. These seats are like really holding you in position when you're driving. And here on the steering wheel you actually have the horse. That's the only horse you have in the whole vehicle. And there's also a spot in the front where the passenger airbag is, where it actually says Mustang. They probably didn't went that far to put some Cobras in here, or at least it doesn't matter, because it's a little bit fun that they keep some of the heritage, because this is a Mustang but it is a Cobra, so it's pretty cool that they keep some, call it Easter eggs or whatever you want to call it. overall, there's nothing in the interior that will blow you away. It is a typical American car when it comes to the interior. Everything is plastic, it rattles, and it makes some noises. But you don't really buy these kinds of car for the interior, so in that case I don't really care. It comes with power windows, and that's actually a feature that I enjoy, even if it's probably might broke sometimes. I enjoy it because I could fold on the windows on both sides quite easily. It has an air condition, which is pretty good. Comes with a cassette player and a CD player down in the bottom. It has 2 speakers on the door sides, and there's one below. The dash is okay, there's a good visibility. You have your oil pressure, battery voltage, revs, speed of course, and temperature and fuel. This one comes also with a rear defroster, which could be useful if you for some reason would drive this in the winter or if you have foggy windows. It has a small storage between the driver and the passenger. Comes with door side storage and the glove box, of course. Enough of talking about the car and its looks and stuff like that. Let's go down to what matters, the driving. So driving this car in the configuration I made it is pretty raw, but it's very stiff and responsive, and it makes a lot of noises. So it's not really the kind of car that you had to just like cruise around it. It's actually it's a car that you have to drive, and driving is really fun. It's not really a car where you're having a social conversation in. It's a car that you want to drive. And compared to the V6 that I had before and that I compared to, this is something that you are driving on the roads. While the V6 is something that you cruise along with on the roads. But this one sticks on the road so much better than the V6. The suspension, the stiffness of the frame, and everything, the feedback from the throttle, the feedback from the steering, everything is on a completely different level. There's a lot of feedback, there's a quick response to it. Though it is naturally aspirated, so there's no compressor or superchargers, turbos, or anything like that. And what that means for the throttle response is that when you are over 3000 RPM, that's when the power is coming. While from 4000 up to 6000, that's where it kind of peaks. Driving it is quite manual. There's no traction control or traction aid or anything like that. So you kind of need to know what you're doing, because if you're pushing this too hard the wrong way, it will kick you back. Though there is a margin of error, there's a small window from when things starts to get loose to when it totally fucks you up. And as long as you know where that window is, you're gonna be fine. I've done some modifications on this one, but one of the things that I think is the best mod I've done is swapping out the transmission, because this one came with a T45 from factory, and Ford discontinued that just after 4 years. In production. because it was basically crap. So I put a TR3350 in it, which is a much better transmission. And I also have a short shift from Stella, which is making the shift and the gearbox really notchy and nice. When you're driving this vehicle in the city, you're getting attention. Not for the car being cool looking or stuff like that. Even if I think it's a pretty cool looking car, it's a different looking car. For sure, it doesn't look like a Mustang, so people are kind of like, what kind of car is that? And in my view, that's a pretty good thing. But the noise is the thing that draws the attention. And I like it. Some people don't like it, but well, then you should not remove your mufflers on it, because then you're gonna get that attention. This is a vehicle that you could do all kind of playful things that you want. You could drift it, you could do burnouts, you could pass cars, and you could like, it's a playful car. It's a sporty feel to it, and it's very enjoyable to drive. When it comes to the speed capacity of this car, it is quite fast, but it's not super fast. It is doing 0 to 60 or 0 to 100, as I mentioned before, around 5 seconds. I think the specifications on the paper is 5.4. That is compared to new cars, it's not that quick. But for a car that is from 1996, it's pretty quick. And they are easily tunable as well, so you could tune them, and they have all that tuning potential. And there's a big community around the SN95 Mustangs. Some people would probably argue if you should get the Cobra or the GT. The Cobra is faster out from the factory, and that is quite noticeable. As you see when I'm driving it, you really get to enjoy just like pushing it like this. It's so loud and so aggressive that I love it. Just listen to it. There's no way you could be sitting here and having a normal conversation. You don't need a stereo because you have that sound. I freaking love it. It's so freaking loud. When it comes to the stopping power, you have all the stopping power you need. The brakes are good. It handles well under braking. In the back, you will find a solid axle, which some people would say is good. Some people would say it's not so good. For me, it doesn't. That doesn't matter for me. From a performance point, I suppose a live axle with an independent suspension is much better, but this car still have nice traction. It is fun to drive. Driving the stick shift is something that I feel is really fun. It gives that extra dimension of driving. You could like rev matching, double clutching and stuff like that. And for this kinds of car, for me, is all about the stick shift. I know some people prefer automatic, but I'm not one of those people. Overall, I think When it comes to these 90s Mustangs, the SN95, especially the Cobra, I think they are really underestimated. Previously there was the Fox body, even if some people are saying this is kind of a Fox body because it's based on the Fox body. It's not, but it's not really what they are considered to be a Fox body Mustang. They were older, but if you compare to the older Mustangs, the early 90s up to 96 and the 80s, they are pretty nice, but there's a reason why they are like not so popular, because they were not so fast. This is the year where they started to become fast again, and after this generation you have a new age. It's still an SN95, but it's called a new age. It goes from 99 to 2004 and 2005. That was when they changed, left the SN95 completely, and they went for that retro look, and that is beautiful too. Engine wise, the engine of this one is considered to be a good engine. They are okay to work on. At some spots it's a little bit tight, but overall they are good cars to work at. It's not very difficult. You could buy a Haynes manual and you could do most of the things yourself. And considering that they are a popular car, you're also going to find all those videos on YouTube with tutorials and stuff like that, and that's also really nice. Something that I wish for on this car would be, though, that it would be more powerful on low RPM. It takes a while before it wakes up, and when it wakes up, it's a little bit you're getting that punch. But I wish that punch would come earlier. I suppose a solution to that would be to get like a supercharger or a turbo even. But don't get me wrong, it's not lacking power. So let's share some final thoughts about this Ford Mustang SVT Cobra. It's a very fun car to drive, and that's what matters, for me at least. This is a car I enjoy get seated in, I enjoy starting it up, and I enjoy driving it. It feels good and it gives me a good smile on my lips. But if you compare it to many other cars, there's always going to be a car that is faster, more fun, or different at least. But would I recommend you to buy a Ford Mustang SVT Cobra from 1996? Hell yeah! It's a ridiculously fun car, and you could get it to sound so good, and it gives you a good big smile on your lips. So if you want to see more car reviews, click here to see the full playlist, and click up here to subscribe. I release one new video once a week. Thanks for watching, and I see you soon.